All right. Kicking off another deep dive with something I think we've all thought about at one point or another.
Yeah, for sure.
How to really level up those English skills.
Definitely.
So we're checking out this episode. It's called 5 Habits to Make 2025 Your English Year.
Okay.
And it comes from a podcast called English Made Easy.
Nice.
So, maybe sounds a little bit self-helpy, right?
Yeah.
A little bit.
But I think there are some good nuggets in here.
Absolutely. Actually, what stood out to me was this whole idea of approaching it through habits, not just like
Oh, interesting.
quick fixes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, think about it, we don't learn our first language through some, crash course.
All right, yeah.
It's all about this constant exposure and practice.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's dive into their first habit, which is all about immersion.
Okay.
But before you think you have to, pack your bags and move to, London or something,
Right.
they actually make it clear that you can do this anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They suggest surround yourself with, as much English content as possible. Movies, music, even podcasts, like what we're doing right now.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Even scrolling through social media. Just basically make English a regular part of your daily life.
Yeah. I was thinking about this when I was learning Spanish. I started listening to a lot of Spanish music while I was cooking dinner.
Oh, nice.
And it wasn't even actively studying the lyrics or anything, but over time I started to understand more and more. It was like my brain was just kind of passively picking it up in the background.
That's a perfect example of how immersion works. It's like it activates your brain's natural language processing centers, right?
Yeah.
So it becomes more intuitive. It's like, learning to swim.
Yeah.
You don't learn by reading a book about swimming.
Right.
You got to jump in the pool.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So habit number 2 is about setting goals,
Right.
but not just those vague goals like, oh, I want to be fluent,
Right, right.
They're really emphasizing being specific.
Yeah. So instead of saying, I want to improve my speaking, try something more concrete.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this week I'm going to practice speaking for 15 minutes every day.
Oh, okay.
Or I'll try to have a conversation with a native English speaker at least once a week.
Got it.
So it's measurable,
Right. So you can actually track it.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, I actually tried something similar. I used to just watch English movies, but I set a goal to try to understand one entire film without subtitles by the end of the month.
Wow, that's ambitious.
It was, but it really pushed me to actively listen to the dialogue.
Yeah, you really have to focus.
Yeah, really focus.
And did you do it?
I did, actually, and it was really challenging, but it felt so rewarding.
That's awesome.
And celebrating those small wins is what keeps you motivated.
Totally, totally. And they also mentioned that, you can set goals beyond just vocabulary. Like maybe you want to be able to read an English novel or understand a technical article in your field.
Yeah, makes sense. It's really about tailoring your goals to what you're actually interested in.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Now, their third habit is where I think a lot of people get tripped up.
Oh, yeah.
It's speaking regularly.
Okay, yeah.
Do you ever feel hesitant to speak English even if you understand it pretty well?
Oh, for sure. I think a lot of us have that fear of messing up or sounding awkward.
Yeah.
I know I used to.
I used to be terrified to speak in front of native speakers.
Yeah.
But then, I realized that everyone makes mistakes,
Right.
even native speakers.
Absolutely. Alice and Ben really emphasize that mistakes are essential for learning.
Yeah.
They're actually opportunities, right?
Yeah.
It's like learning to ride a bike. You're going to fall a few times before you get it.
Exactly. Yeah. So what are some ways that people can, get over that fear and just start speaking more?
Well, they suggest finding a language partner or using those language exchange apps like HelloTalk. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
You can connect with people all over the world who are also learning English.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a great way to practice in a low-pressure setting.
I've always been a little intimidated to try those, though. What if I just, make a fool of myself?
I get it, but everyone on those apps is there to learn, right?
True.
And they're there to support each other.
Yeah.
And honestly, most people are more focused on their own learning than on judging your mistakes.
Okay, you know what? You've convinced me.
Really?
I'm going to download HelloTalk tonight.
Awesome.
What about you? Have you ever used those language exchange apps?
I haven't personally, but I've heard really good things. And even if you don't have a language partner, you can still practice speaking by yourself. Just try talking to yourself in English while you're doing everyday stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Like cooking or getting ready.
Yeah, you're giving your brain those little mini immersion sessions throughout the day.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Even a few minutes each day can make a big difference over time.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
So we've talked about immersion, setting goals, and getting over that fear of speaking.
Yeah,
Now let's get to habit number 4, which is all about expanding your vocabulary. I mean, this is something I feel like I'm always working on.
for sure.
Do you have any, like, go-to strategies for learning new words?
Well, Alice is a big fan of something called active recall.
Active recall.
Yeah, it's basically this learning technique where you like actively try to pull information from your memory,
Okay.
and it actually helps strengthen those neural connections.
Oh, interesting.
So it's easier to remember things later on.
Gotcha.
She recommends writing down new words that you come across and then like really try to use them,
Oh.
in sentences, in actual conversations, or even just write them down several times.
So it's not just about recognizing the word, it's about, like, actually using it.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like, think about learning a new dance move. You wouldn't just watch someone do it once and think, okay, I got it. You got to practice it over and over again.
Right, to really get it.
Language is kind of similar.
Mhm,
Right?
yeah.
The more you use a word, the more it just becomes like second nature.
Yeah, makes sense. Ben, on the other hand, recommends those flashcard apps, like Anki or Quizlet.
Oh, yeah, those are popular.
I've used those before, and they
Yeah.
can be helpful,
Yeah.
but sometimes I feel like I'm just memorizing the definition, and I don't really understand how to use the word in, a natural way.
I think that's a common trap with flashcards. But Alice makes a really good point about learning words in context.
Okay, yeah.
Like, for example, instead of just memorizing the definition of amazing, try using it in different sentences. The food is amazing.
Right,
That view from the mountain was amazing. Or I had an amazing time at the concert.
right. Okay, yeah.
So you really get a feel for its different shades of meaning.
Yeah, it's like the difference between learning an instrument by just playing scales versus learning by playing actual songs.
Perfect analogy.
Right. And speaking of that, Ben also talks about how it's important to learn phrases and expressions,
Oh, yeah.
not just individual words.
Those idioms and colloquialisms are key to sounding more natural and fluent.
Absolutely.
Like, think about those common phrases, what's up? Or how's it going?
Right.
You wouldn't necessarily learn those from a textbook,
Right, yeah.
but you need them for everyday conversations.
Yeah, it's almost like learning the slang or the inside jokes of a culture.
Yeah,
It
totally.
helps you really connect with people. All right, moving on to the final habit they talk about, which is writing in English.
Okay.
This one maybe seems a bit less obvious than speaking,
Yeah.
but it's super valuable. Do you find yourself writing much in English, like outside of work and stuff?
I do, actually. I've always been into journaling,
Mm-hmm.
and I find that writing in English helps me, like, process my thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and practice structuring sentences without that pressure of, like, a real-time conversation.
Right.
And it's a safe space to try out new vocabulary and grammar,
Yeah.
without worrying about messing up.
Right. Ben mentioned he likes writing short stories in English.
Oh, cool.
It kind of forces him to get creative with the language.
Yeah, definitely. And it's important to start small, right?
Okay.
You don't have to dive into writing a novel on day one.
Right.
Start with like diary entries or messages to friends, or even just commenting on social media posts in English.
Oh, that's a good idea, yeah.
Just little things to get you going.
Alice also brought up using writing as a way to reflect on your learning.
Oh, interesting.
She said she often writes about her experiences with learning English,
Huh.
and it helps her figure out, where she needs to improve.
That's smart.
Mm-hmm.
And because writing's not as immediate as speaking, you have more time to think things through,
Oh, yeah.
to really consider your word choice and grammar.
Yeah, you can really refine things.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it's also just like a low pressure environment for practicing.
Totally.
You don't have to worry about an audience or anything.
Right. Just you and the page.
Yeah, you can just get your thoughts out.
And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. The goal is to just, like, practice and get better, not to create a masterpiece every time.
So we've covered all 5 habits now.
We did it.
Immersion, goal setting, speaking, vocabulary building, and writing.
It's quite a lot.
It is. It's like a whole holistic approach to mastering English.
Yeah, it's well-rounded.
But, as we've been talking about this, I've been thinking,
Yeah. What's on your mind?
well, it seems like a lot of this advice is about discipline and, effort and pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone,
Right, right.
which is all important. But I wonder if there's another ingredient that's maybe even more crucial to really succeeding with language learning.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued. What are you thinking?
I'm wondering, what if instead of always pushing for, like, perfection.
Hmm.
We try to approach language learning with more of a sense of playfulness.
Mm,
Think about it. When we're kids, we learn through play, through just experimenting, like making a mess of things.
right.
Could that same approach help us unlock a whole new level of fluency, maybe?
That's a really interesting thought. It kind of goes against, that traditional view of language learning as this rigid, rule-based thing.
Right, exactly.
What if we just let ourselves be more playful, more experimental? Like you said, embrace those mistakes
Mm-hmm.
as part of the process.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine like approaching English with that same curiosity and wonder that like a kid has when they're discovering something brand new.
Yeah.
So instead of getting all caught up in the grammar rules, you're just focused on having fun with the language, trying new things, and seeing what happens.
It's almost like shifting the focus from the outcome to the process.
Okay.
So instead of obsessing over like reaching some perfect level of fluency, what if we just enjoyed the act of learning itself,
Yeah.
playing with the language,
Ah,
expressing ourselves, even if it's not perfect at first?
I love that. It kind of takes the pressure off, right?
Right, exactly.
It's not about being perfect. It's just about like enjoying the process and letting ourselves be beginners again.
And sometimes, that playfulness and that freedom, it actually can lead to faster progress.
Oh, interesting.
Because when we're relaxed, our brains are more open to taking in new information.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We're more likely to take risks, to experiment, and that's how we have those breakthroughs, right?
Yeah,
That lead
absolutely.
to fluency.
So, to all our listeners out there, we challenge you to like really embrace that playfulness in your English language journey.
Yeah,
Don't be afraid to, try new things, make mistakes, and most importantly, have fun with it.
exactly. And remember, there's no one right way to learn a language.
Yeah,
What works for one person might not work for another.
right.
The key is to find what you enjoy, what sparks your curiosity, what keeps you coming back for more. Because in the end, the most effective language learning is the kind that you'll stick with.
I think that's the perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of English language learning.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
We hope this has been helpful and that you feel inspired to really make 2025 your year for mastering English.
Definitely.
And until next time, keep playing, keep learning, and keep exploring the amazing world of language.
See you next time.